This is the Voice of the Land podcast with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Nick Paulus.
In terms of basketball, though, in this city, we had big issues this past week. And I know it's been a few days since all of this has transpired. The Cavs have played a couple games. One very surprising. We'll get into that in a second. One not so surprising. Last night against the Miami Heat, of course, they were honoring Dwayne Wade, and they were doing like a 3-night type ceremony for him to honor him.
Yeah.
And I think I saw him rapping a little bit. He has a song out there now, and he's getting in the music industry. Dwayne Wade's doing a lot of stuff right now. Good, maybe
more than welcome to.
More than welcome to. He's
very well deserved. He can do what he wants now.
Taking advantage of retirement. That's
absolutely.
He's earned that right as one of those quality Hall of Fame caliber, and he will be a Hall of Famer one day. Whether it's first ballot, second ballot, he will be.
He'll be first. He'll be a first.
Yes, he will. I mean, he's one of those guys that he was so good early on, and then he was so willing to allow Chris Bosh and LeBron to come in and be more of a collective unit. Yeah, it took him a year to figure everything out, but Dwayne Wade is the heart and soul of Miami Heat basketball. He is going to be the best Miami Heat player to go down in history. Yes, they got a great culture down there, and they're playing really well. And they beat up on the Cavs last night. They'll be in the playoffs this year.
The greatest Heat player of all time, but he wasn't the best Heat player of all time.
Right.
Let's make that clear.
Right.
LeBron's 4 years down there was the best player on the planet.
Oh yeah.
For that time frame, better than what Dwayne Wade ever was. Don't get me wrong, Dwayne Wade was phenomenal, especially whenever he had Shaq. I think what was that, year 2 or year 3? Whenever they had Shaq and ended up beating the Dallas, right?
Yeah,
it was the Mavericks.
Yeah,
fantastic player, greatest Heat player of all time for sure.
Oh yeah, but when LeBron comes into your team, you automatically have. Until people
you are now number 2.
Right. Until people prove otherwise, LeBron is the best player on the planet and still playing to that level at this point. Giannis is
number 17. I mean, year 17, and you're still dishing out 25. I think he has 9 assists this year he's averaging, and
9 or 10 assists.
Yeah,
he was
something crazy.
He was near the top, if not leading the league at one point this year in assists. Because what makes LeBron so great is you're going to get those dunk highlights every now and again, but he's playing below the rim and understanding where his body is at, where his mind is at, where his career is at these days.
Yeah.
He's understanding how to use that basketball IQ to still be so dominant and have an impact on the game. Whether he scores 10 points or he scores 30 points or 40 points, he's still having an impact on the game on the score sheet, just like he did here.
Absolutely.
Rebounding, assists, steals, and just being, when he's on the floor, you're going to have to account for him anyway. So he's going to have that kind of impact. Giannis is going for his second MVP, but he's a young up and coming player trying to taking over that mantle. LeBron is still the best player in this league. KD's been
hands down.
KD hasn't had a chance to fully ever take over that position, been hurt, and then went to Golden State. Those kinds of things may have hurt how people see KD in the league. A guy like Kyrie can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Best ability is availability. We say it every single week, it seems like. Somehow, some way, that comes up. And I was actually doing an interview last night with the Cut FFL podcast, and we had that same kind of conversation with guys on the Browns. We'll get into the Browns in a little bit, but we had a pretty good Browns conversation last night, and shout out to those guys, Christian and Randy over there at the Cut, for having me on, and I'm sure we'll get things going between the two podcasts there. We'll talk about that towards the end. But it's that best ability is availability, and Kyrie hasn't been able to take on any sort of big-time player in the NBA with the talent we saw here in Cleveland because of that.
Right. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we can go a ton of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever we're talking about, former Cavs or, especially LeBron, Kyrie, everyone like that. I think what everyone wants to know right now, though, here for Cleveland is what the hell's going on with the Cavs?
Right, because we're talking about guys right now that have had an impact on the Cavaliers' history in LeBron and Kyrie, and now, fast forward to 2020, we have a coach who got a 5-year deal coming from the school up north.
A 67-year-old coach got a 5-year deal.
got a 5-year deal, trying to, what we thought the direction was, bringing in these young point guards. He was so used to a point guard driven or a 2-guard system driven type basketball platform that he was developing up there at the school up north, and thought developing young guys that he was so used to connecting with at the college level, and they weren't far removed from that kind of age. We thought that was going to happen, and now we transition to the 3/4 mark of the NBA season, and he wants out. He walks away and mutually agree to part ways.
It's from behind the scenes. Apparently, it's bad. It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad, and it had to do a lot with a lot of the veteran players on the team.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Tristan. We're talking Love, especially Kevin Love.
Right.
It was a bad situation from the start.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that because you heard it leak out at the very beginning of the year about how, like Coach Beilein's making us practice so hard and we got to watch so much game tape. Yeah, because you guys are the worst team in the league. Like you have to do these sort of things in order to get better. But a lot of these vets on this team didn't want to take over that role, and they didn't want to teach Colin Sexton how to do something right, or Garland, or KBJ. I mean, there were so many young players on this team that needed guidance this year, and it just never happened. And that is a damn shame whenever it comes to that, because John Beilein tried to do something for these players, and it never took. It never took. Why do you think that was?
The culture that was established, and I'm not going to say I blame LeBron for it, but it was just this, we're the Cavs, we're going to flip this switch because we're so good and the East is so down.
Yeah.
We're going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Somehow you give us a chance in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it took a lot of effort to get through that last Eastern Conference Finals when LeBron was here against the Celtics, but they still made it to the finals.
But that's because you had LeBron on the team.
Right, you had LeBron on the team. You had that guy to go to when time needed it.
Sure, but you don't have that now.
Right. You don't have that now because no one has stepped up to take that role. Kevin Love was going to be seen as that guy because he seemed to be that all-star caliber player that was going to be loyal to this team.
Sure.
Signing these extensions, being willing and understanding where the team was going. But what is the direction, really? Because now Kevin Love, Tristan have kind of taken on that, we don't need to work. We can just kind of flip the switch. We can do just enough to get us to a point of competing.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because you don't have that sort of talent on this team. In the past, like what you were saying, you had LeBron, you had Kyrie, you had all of these players that literally could flip the switch
and then go into their role and take whatever they needed to off the shoulders of LeBron and Kyrie.
Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson aren't those types of players. No. I know Kevin's getting paid like that kind of player, but he isn't that type of player. He is a third to possibly fourth option on this 15-41 team. I mean, it's mind-blowing how bad Kevin Love is now. And it's not like we're looking at, like, Minnesota Kevin was 20-10 every single night. You knew what you were getting. I mean, he was just
dealt a bad hand out there.
Dealt
in Minnesota.
a bad hand.
He was trying all he could.
You felt like Kevin Garnett Jr. Like, oh, woe is him. Let's get him out of the situation. He comes out. He plays for the Cavs. He's a third option. To Kyrie and LeBron, which makes all the sense in the world, obviously.
Yeah.
But now that those guys are gone, the culture had never changed. And I think what comes about that is that you're basically looking at the front office and Dan Gilbert as the people that didn't change the culture when it needed to be changed. The moment LeBron left for LA, because the writing was on the wall. The moment that he left for LA and you brought in Colin Sexton, you need to change up everything right then and there to not just appease the young, not a savior. Colin Sexton's not a savior. He's a good player. I think he can be an all-star type of player, but it's going to take a while, and it's going to take a lot of coaching. The guy was 19 years old coming into the NBA. He needed a lot of help. And he got nothing over the last 2 years. He's had, 4 coaches in not even 2 years yet.
Right.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, because you had Tyronn Lue, Larry Drew,
The voice.
the voice.
This is why we have this podcast, baby.
Larry Drew is, for those that don't know, and I think it's a coach, he was the voice of the team. And as we were kind of just doing some practice podcasts to try to get our chemistry down before we really started putting this product out there, it just kind of, we didn't put up a name at all. We just kind of went off and just started having sports conversations just to get that back and forth chemistry down. Then all of a sudden, Larry Drew comes about and says he's the voice of the Cavs.
We thought it was the most ridiculous thing that we had ever heard.
Right.
Ever.
And then it turned into the voice of the land, because we are the voice of the land. We're not some coach for the land or anything like that, but we are the voice of reason.
Yes.
We are the voice of Cleveland sports, trying to bring sports talk back to what it's supposed to be: conversations, debate.
Which is something we thought Larry Drew might have been able to do.
Right. Bring basketball back to reality. Relevance here in Cleveland, and develop an actual culture, an actual system. That did not happen.
No.
So then you turn to John Beilein, college coach. You think, oh, well, the goal is, by having that coach come in, we thought the direction was develop the young players, because, and you know, a guy that's well respected within the basketball ranks, never been at the NBA level.
Which was an issue that you and I had talked about.
We did, but still in the back of your mind thinking, well, he has that much respect. He is a guy that could have the ability to get the respect of Tristan, Kevin.
He was able to get
like
these 3-star players at Michigan and turn them into 5-star prospects.
Yes.
I mean, look at what he did with like Trey Burke. Who knew who Trey Burke was until Michigan and he developed in the system, and he turned out to be a decent player in the NBA. I mean, he's not anything great or
first
anything
couple
like
years
that,
he was pretty good because of that, but then lost that sort of development because he didn't have a guy like John Beilein.
Right.
John Beilein did so much for Trey Burke's career, and you thought that that's what he was going to do for these young players, and you wanted a guy to come in here and work on fundamentals, work on the skills of basketball, get in the film room. What is going wrong? Let's fix this. Let's actually work, because we're going to have to earn our way back into relevance in the NBA to compete for playoff spots.
Yeah.
And that's what you thought John Beilein was going to do. And yet these veterans, and I know that there all these different reports of how they trolled him after he used certain word, like the certain word of thug and playing music like that, or just the way that they didn't connect with him. Even Andre Drummond came in and said that the Cavs, you could just tell right away, a guy that had just been traded here, said that it was worse than what it was in Detroit, and he had come to an even worse situation. So you wonder, what are you doing trading for a guy that has that much talent in Andre Drummond? He wasn't even on the floor on Friday night towards the end of the game.
Right.
And, he had like 13 and 12. I think it was 13 points, 12 boards, or 13 points, 13 rebounds. Had an impact on the game and wasn't even in there in the fourth quarter. And you thought that game was going to get away from him because they allowed 41 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, he had 12 and 12.
12 and 12. And that was, again, in Washington, in the nation's capital. You allow the Wizards, who are a terrible team as well, to score 41 points in that first quarter. Well, then you think, okay, well, J.B. Bickerstaff is kind of getting his message across already, because the Cavs showed some surprising turnaround there.
Sure.
Then they go down to Miami and get beat 124-105 last night. So
back-to-backs are always tough. Let's put it out there that way. I'm not saying J.B. Bickerstaff has no chance after that blowout loss that happened last night, but I liked what I saw on Friday night. I mean, I'm just looking at the box score right now. Colin 25. I mean, you're going to get 23 to 25 from Colin no matter what. It's just what he produces. Obviously, we still need assists from these guys. I mean, Garland had 4 assists. Right. Garland had 4 assists. Tristan had 4 assists. And then, the rebounds. Chetty had 10. Drummond had 12. And Tristan off the bench had 11. That's what you need. And with those 3 bigs that we have, I'm including Kevin Love into that mix as well. You have 3 of the top 15 rebounders in the league now. The number 1 rebounder in Andre Drummond. So you're not worried about the rebounds there, but you're more worried about the assists, and you're worried about, that that plus minus, overall. And I'm telling you right now, what scared me about last night is whenever you look at the plus minus.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever you look at this plus minus for these bigs, I mean, you're looking at Andre Drummond what do you think his plus minus was?
Well, I've
Obviously, a plus means you're out on the court and
Yeah.
you're doing a very good job defending or everything like that.
Yeah, it's the difference between, like what your impact on the game is, whether your team is able to outscore the other team by so many points or you're being outscored by a certain amount of points you're on the floor. I'm going to go minus 10.
Minus 25. Andre Drummond.
That's bad.
Minus 25 means you're getting blown past.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can't defend the rim at that point in time. He's not even the worst one. You know who was the worst one? Is a bench player. Tristan. Minus 27. Then you got Chetty for 22.
Chetty has completely
he's lost his confidence. He's lost everything. He's done.
You don't see that confident basketball player like when LeBron was here that Chetty could develop into. He has lost his outside shot. He's lost everything. When he's dribbling down the court, he's way out of control. The ball is he gets a nice steal against the Wizards in that fourth quarter, and the ball gets knocked away from him. So with this Cavs team where we're at now, moving on from John Beilein, going to J.B Bickerstaff for the rest of the year and seeing where they go from there, what is the direction of this team? And even with Charles Barkley calling out these players and other
Which
people,
was very deserving.
Yeah. On TNT's tip-off show before their game on Thursday night, where do you see this team going, and will these players actually respond now that they've been called out and their actions have been kind of brought to the light? Will there be some sort of response towards the end of the year to build some momentum, to actually build a culture and rebuild this team and build back to relevance?
I don't see why you would even think that. I
mean,
like they haven't given you anything.
Question.
Yeah, I know you have to ask the question. I'm not turning it on you.
No, I'm just saying it's like you got to ask the question, but you don't see it.
But you don't see it. It's like the Browns. Why do you have faith in the Browns whenever they've put out crap over the last 20 years? You shouldn't have any faith in them. We always end up getting sucked into believing, and I think that's what we're going to end up happening with the Cavs. I mean, you're going to see performances like Friday night, give up 41 points, but then they're going to make this comeback, and you're going to feel good about it, and you're going to be like, okay, maybe they'll have an opportunity. But then they're going to have performances like last night, which they just shouldn't even be out there on the floor. And they get blown past, and it's a terrible sighting for that to happen. I think we're going to see more so what happened last night than we will for Friday night. I'm hoping JB has the turnaround capability of it, but I don't see it happening. And I see that he's going to be out of the job, at the end of the year, and then we're going to be searching for another coach, which would mean which means Dan would have given, I think, this is 6 coaches in the last 7 years, and that dates back to LeBron years, obviously. And the fact that LeBron was able to carry this mess of a franchise to a 3-1 deficit, winning a championship, just
4 straight finals
proves how great of a player LeBron James is. And we should all be thankful that LeBron was not only born here in Akron and was able to win us a championship, but because I don't see a championship coming from any of these sports teams for quite a while. And that's terrible of me to say that, but it's a fair statement.
Yeah, and you could be mad at LeBron when he left the first time going to Miami and didn't what he said he was going to do, but he came back. At this point, you can't be mad at LeBron.
Absolutely
and you
not.
Understand what's been going on behind the scenes the whole time and how, like you said, how much of a mess this franchise has been. It's just this team, hopefully you do see more games like Friday night and a young team learning how to win, because the gap between them at the bottom of the league and even the 8th seeded team in the playoffs, that gap is so wide right now. This team is going to need some performances like that just for the young guys to learn what it takes to win and then become leaders on the floor, to then maybe actually start and figure out a direction in the offseason, because they don't have one.
No.
This team really doesn't have a direction.
It's directionless. Yeah.
It's directionless. These last stretches of games need to be a way for the organization to find what direction they really want to go moving forward, and then maybe start the slow climb back to relevance in the NBA.